Good evening. This is Spirit Journey, and it's after 9 p.m. I was just doing some deep thinking about my life, and I guess I'm just free floating my ideas. I was thinking about this. He has a Facebook account. I don't want to give his name, but he's what you would call a black conservative. I liked his presentation. And he says something that would be considered very controversial. And obviously that many blacks would find him offensive and anti-black. I'm just saying it. I'm just being very blunt. Some things I did agree with. I liked his poison delivery, his presentation. I started to think, with the controversy that he said, what he allegedly said. And if he did say it, I understand. I understand not that I am in favor of the belief, but that we all are observers of things, whether we like it or not. Some of the things that we encounter. Some of the things that we encounter as black people. And this individual, again, I don't know the community that he lived in. I mean, he mentioned where he's from, but I'm not familiar with the area at all. But he is from a middle class upbringing. At least, a so-called traditional home. His father was a principal, and I think of a high school, I'm not sure, but he was a principal, and his mother was a housewife. It also turns out that he was adopted. Now, I don't know whether he was adopted by a black family or a non-black family. That I don't know. But he said something that, allegedly this person said that things like certain lifestyles he was accustomed to. But what happened was minorities happened. Minorities came in, or something like that, and everything of the things that the lifestyle he had, he is no longer able to do because of minorities. And that would offend a lot of people, in particular blacks, because the person who's saying it is a black male. But just because someone is a minority doesn't mean that they're black. And I know I'm being, dicing words and semantics, but I started thinking about it. What does he mean by that? Well, I do know of someone, a black family, and they lived in the suburbs. And I found out they used to leave their door unlocked, which is unheard of. But they did. And they did it because where they lived in a professional, middle class neighborhood. And I think the couple, they may make, I think maybe close to $100,000. Maybe over, maybe 150,000. I'm not sure, but a middle class, both educated. But things are changing where they live. Their school system is changing. And why is that? Why their lifestyle might change? Because minorities came in. But what does that mean, that minorities came in? See, initially in, let's just say, a predominantly white neighborhood, when you get non-whites moving into certain white neighborhoods that are middle class or even upper middle class, they're not coming in initially like a flood. 1, 2 families or something like that. But those who move in, they have the money to move in. People who decide to move into a neighborhood of people that's not of their race, they're moving in there for a reason. And what's the reason? Their school system. They usually have higher standards for their school system. And there's a correlation, oftentimes, money and education. Anyone could have an education, and they don't necessarily have that money. Anyone could educate themselves. You go to the library and you can teach yourself anything. But when you have money and access, you make it work for you, and you make sure your children have that education so that they have chances of certain advancements. So again, you have a community, and they want to keep it that certain way. They always want to build up that community so it's stable and increase in economic wealth and prestige. So when non-whites start to come in, it's usually they have a high standard for anybody non-white to move in. They're usually higher educated. They probably have a license, in licensed professions. But then one day, something slips. And that structure changes overnight, very quickly. And so what happens? You get a whole influx, which somehow it gets destabilized. And the so-called minorities that are in, and everything that's attached to them. You have certain people, for whatever reason, I don't know whether it's a percentage or individuals, but certain individuals have things that are socially attached to them. And I think that no matter what the education is, will always be attached to them. despair, violence, poverty. And I think some things are attached to certain people and groups. And when that group comes into your community, you're in a bad situation. And it could happen in any community, and any race could be of that type of attachment. And so when this guy is saying that minorities happen, that's what he's talking about. That there was an attachment, and this is my interpretation, an attachment. Because initially, to go into this type of neighborhood, you have to have those certain things in order. Your status, because for them to even sell the house to you, you already have a mindset, a certain type of mindset to even want to move there. The concept of the Beverly Hillbilly type people, that's Hollywood. So a Beverly Hillbillies Billy who has that type of money, they don't have any reason to move because you don't want to change. You have to have a change. If you move into a particular environment, you ask yourself why you want to move into that environment. There's something you want out of that environment. So I think the show like the Beverly Hillbillies was to mock a particular demographics. There would be no reason for them to move. They would stay where they are and just buy in their community. So it's important that when you move into a place that has your mindset or your aspirations, and you'll be grafted on, hopefully. But this new influx of people that move into a community, they weren't grafted in. And that was the problem. That the influx was greater than they were able to process. And maybe part of that was by design. You have people who like to create neighborhoods. People, and I think they call it the Cabal. I think neighborhoods are created. And when a community has outgrown itself, and you have these investors, I believe, and they say, I'm going to put this kink into this community because, I want to develop another neighborhood. And I want to get money out of that. I want to start spreading out. So I know I'm going to let X number of these so-called minorities in so that they'll be forced, the others, the whites in particular, will leave and move where I want them to. And then develop that community. I think that's what's happening. So they leave the old neighborhood, but the bankers and stuff don't want the so-called minorities of this neighborhood to have economic power. So again, it's just shifting population and then holding them at bay. It's mean-spirited. But that's what it looks like what's happening. And so I think of that young man who said that. It sounds bad what he said, but I understood. I had gone to a place upstate New York. And I said to myself the same type of thing. some of the things that come into communities. And it's like, wow. So let's say you're an educated Black family, and you initially got in the area and was reaping the benefits and the prestige of it, and you brought in your skills to that neighborhood. And then what happens? This new influx that don't have the same standards, and this attachment to them, and it's by design. It's all by design, and it's done by design to even sabotage that middle class or upper middle class Black family by putting in these other groups in there to stifle you. It's like weeds. But this is what I really want to talk about. This was part of it. I was just analyzing this. And again, what I was going to say, that this upstate place. And when I saw, it was in a college town. And then I saw it was a poster of this young man wearing makeup and doing something very kinky, sexual in this picture. And I said, things like this is what could bring down an area. And why they put that in there? Because it's not a lot of, the person in the photo, it's not a lot of people of that group that's living up there. It is a college town. But it was thrown in there, and it said it's filth. And it's a mindset. It's not that thing did not. The post also was not promoting family, community. I think. See, we may not like it. See, as a person of African ancestry living in the Americas, see, we want to always believe that only white people or everybody else is bad or have certain standards. But you have Black people that have standards also and requirements. And we're really no different than any other group. But we're brainwashed to think that everybody, that we're all one in the Black community, and that's not so. You always had rich and poor alike. Maybe mostly poor, but now you have all different social economics. And we don't like to admit that there are Black people who have college education and who have money. Some of us have money. And many of us don't have. But we're taught to be contemptuous of Black people who have money. We're also taught to be contemptuous of Black people who are mixed race with white people. We're also taught to be contemptuous if, let's say, it's a Black female and she has naturally long hair. So we're brought up with biases against certain standards, and it's in particular if that standard is perceived as having white influence behind it. So that means even education. If you are perceived to have education, then you're also hated. So, this type of mentality is a danger for blacks as a whole, because if you're saying that education is for everyone else but you, and that to be a true black person is to be uneducated, then you're holding yourself back. You had black entrepreneurs. You had black millionaires at the time when things were really, really challenging in America. We're being taught to be prejudiced against ourselves. We're becoming so prejudiced against ourselves that you have some who are promoting that we're no longer black, but we're Native American Indians. It's staggering. We want to be everything but ourselves. We're running away from ourselves. And when someone who is of black ancestry is achieving, that a lot of times we want to hurt them. And I'm reminded of something that I shared a couple of months ago. I think it happened maybe 4 months ago. An incident that happened on the train when I was visiting my mother. Now, this train is, I've never had a problem on that train. It's a nice train. It's usually quiet. It's not a lot of people during off hours, after rush hour, like between the hours like 11 a.m., 1 a.m. It's not that many people. And one day, around that same time, I went to visit, and I took the train that I've taken many times. And an incident happened to me. And it was 2 young black women. They could have been in their 20s, 30s. And it's really something. See, they remind me of so many different things that I experienced as a young girl. I'm born and raised in New York City. And I went to a black school, elementary school. And we had bullies in our school. See, back then, the term bullies meant someone who liked to fight other people, not because of their sexual orientation, but because they were perceived as being weaker or whatever. So I just want to make that clear. And in particular, the girls were very violent. And I was afraid of them because they were much bigger than me. And as time went on, I started thinking back of my youth. And I felt that I was starting to understand what their problem was. See, it's what I believe, that these ladies, these black women, were taught not to like themselves. Usually they were a darker complexion, but you did have lighter skinned blacks too that were bullies also, or I should say, had an edge to them. And I started thinking, to be a woman, or I should say a young girl, and to be taught at a very early age that you're ugly because of your color. It blows your mind. And I've seen people growing up who showed a lot of attention to females if they had a strong European influence in them, meaning fair complexion and or straight hair. So, if you see males liking someone, and it's always if there were a particular type, but it excluded you, you'll start to be resentful. And I'm thinking maybe this might have been part of their problem. It's just something that I'm thinking that this could be a problem. But I remember in particular it was the aggressiveness and the anger. And so when I see back then, I mean, as a small child, I didn't know the history of slavery, not in detail. But as time went on, as an adult, I started to understand the social dynamics. And so when the thing with the girl, on the train, were being bullyish, it just threw me. Because I think I thought that I felt like I had to apologize for myself to look the way I do, or to be raised in a middle-class family. That somehow I had to apologize for being who I was. But I feel angry because I feel no one has to apologize for being who they are. If you're a good human being, you respect others, that's all that's really required. But to feel guilty about the way you look because someone else doesn't approve, it's not up to me to change. It's up to you to change. It's up to anyone who looks in the mirror. You have to accept yourself. And so I'm seeing this girl that did that thing to me on the train. And I'm thinking, wow. So what's the excuse now? She was dressed neatly. She had nice makeup on. She had her hair in braids. She was dressed clean. And then she was with what I call a Girl Friday, her sidekick. And she had her designer handbag. And I think the girl must have thought she was something else. And that see, what I'm noticing now with certain individuals and it could be in anybody's community, whether black or white, or any other group, that see, you have people who feel because of what they are, that it gives them an entitlement to act out. And that there's somebody, because of what they believe they have. And I feel that she thought by some of the accessories she has that this gave her an entitlement to abuse someone who maybe she thought did not have. But she was very particular. And why I say that? Like when she and her Girl Friday came in, she was looking for something. She didn't look straight, like I was directly in front of her, but she was looking down the train. And in hindsight, I don't know what she was looking for. But when she looked at me, she found what she was looking for: someone to abuse, someone to make her feel powerful, significant. But see, I'm trying to link in with in the beginning of this audio about the individual, the guy who said, even though he's a black man, a young black man, and that when he lived in this neighborhood and the things that he used to be able to do before, and then when his neighborhood changed that he lived in, when he, as he said, when minorities came in, that it changed the social structure, and what was permissible was now unpermissible. And so I'm thinking of this lady. See, that lady is the type of person that I think that male YouTuber is referring to. See, you have people who come in and are social predators, and they could be of any race, and they attach themselves and do havoc. These people are characterized as being very short-sighted. See, they lack self-discipline. Even though, she was dressed neatly, but they lack self-control. If anyone who lacks self-control are people who are not beneficial for anything. Because in life, you have to have some type of self-control. And so she's also lacking what they call, I think she's short-sighted because she's into the accessories to make her feel important. But like what happened in Louisiana a couple of years back when they had that massive flood, that in an instant you could lose all those materialisms, all of it in an instant. And what do you have? True wealth is not in those possessions. True wealth is your mind, and to use that mind to build up a community, to build up a culture, a rich culture of livelihoodness, of prosperity, of health and wealth. All of those riches, those are true riches. Community is rich. Most people aren't living like a hermit. You live in a social structure, community. That girl lacked social building. She is a social destroyer, and so she is a toxin to anybody who receives her. She's a destroyer and not a builder. And so she can have all the accessories she wants, all the body piercings that she had, all the makeup, all the hair braids that she had, but she lacks the ability of social building. And so that's what's lacking in many of the Black communities. We lack the real ability of community building. It has gotten, corrupted. We used to be communities. We may not have been the richest community, but there was a community. But it got hijacked. And we're becoming prejudiced of our own and call successful Black people bad words. But we never give bad words to people like that woman that was thugging me on the train. that we lift up the criminal, the bad people in school, the bullies in school that prevent education. And I think this is socially put there on purpose to hold us back. And I think as a community, a black community, we have to be more selective, just like our white counterpart. See, every community is really the same. We might call ourselves different things, but every community has those elements. You have the rich and the poor. You have those that, if given a chance, they will prosper. But the black community in the United States is afraid to assert itself and to purge out the trash that live amongst us. We have to throw out the trash rather than getting offensive. Oh, you're prejudiced or this and that. No, you have to start using wisdom. Who you want to live next to you? Who do you want your children with? And what you want them to learn? You think this person is going to teach their kid about community building or how to be a bully? Bullies don't last forever. A true bully doesn't. They're fly by night. This person should have been more focused on not seeing who she could bully, but about community building. Where she got her hair braided? Did she braid it herself? Where did she get that hair from? Was it from some other community of people? Her handbag, was that an American-made handbag? Or you buying from somebody else? See, it's things like that she's lacking. She's not about community building. And what she thinks she has is superficial. We have to stop targeting ourselves. And I think Black America has to be more selective. Rather than saying, oh, I'm afraid to be middle class. No, be your personal best. Be you, but be your personal best. And not to be afraid to be good, to be someone of excellence. That education is a positive thing. And I've been around Black people that said in front of me that their own Black parents, the mother, had told them, I want you to act out in the white person's class, white teacher's class. Now, is that community building? Is that something that's wise? Okay? We're teaching our kids retarded things, and then we expect to get good results. And then you're going to blame everyone but yourself. We have to start purging out from our community the riffraff. And riffraff has nothing to do with your color. It's about your conduct and your mentality. We got a lot of riffraff in our community, and we're afraid to point it out. But we'll point out everything else. But when it comes to our own community, we're afraid to say no. We say, hey, get out of here. See, it could happen. I think if we start looking at ourselves and say, okay, I'm born and these are the attributes I have. You look good in the mirror, and you tell yourself, you say, okay, this is what I have. I'm not perfect, but I want to create a perfect environment for me and my family. Where to go from here? It's okay to dream. See, we were taught that we weren't supposed to dream and have aspirations. It's okay to have aspirations. It's not being white to have dreams for your family and to plan out. But when we do start to plan out, then they are name called. Like those two girls that were tennis players, those two black girls, Serena and Venus. Both of their parents are black. And they were hardworking. And they were very focused on what they wanted to achieve. And Tiger Woods, he's from an interracial family. And the parents had a dream for their son. That's where it starts. It starts with the parent having a dream and a plan. And look at the Jackson 5. The same thing. The parents, so you need two parents. Okay? There's always two parents involved. And they support each other, and they're focused on what they want to achieve as a family. That's not being white, that's being smart. Every successful family seems to have that formula, to have a mother and a father working together with a common goal in mind. So evidently, what I'm gathering, that girl on the train probably didn't have both parents and an aim, a goal to achieve. See, the girl didn't have real goals. So that's why she was short-sighted in becoming the social bully with accessories. And accessories grow old. And so what are you going to get? So you spend all this money on something that's really not going to build up your community or your home. So it may not have sound pretty what that guy said, but I understood the principles behind what happened to him in his community. I understood. And I understand that you could be in a situation and then, boom, it gets lost overnight. What you were able to do, what you're able to buy. We need standards. We need to adapt a new standard for us to live by. I think this hip-hop music is used to distort your mind, to pervert your mind. You look in a black neighborhood in New York City, and what you're going to see that the type of advertisement is usually cigarettes or alcohol or both. And what else? That you allow food places that prepare substandard food. So it's going to affect your health. And then you do not focus on education for your children. It's not just physically being in somebody else's neighborhood. It's about also being behind your kids and say, hey, did you do your homework? Or get a tutor for your kid if they fall behind in their studies, if they need help. It takes an active stance. Neighborhoods are created. It's not by design. I mean, it's by design, but it doesn't just happen. It's planned. Everything you see in those communities that you drool over is all by design. The Black community can do the same for itself and achieve, but it's going to take work. And it's about, I think, examining yourself, being realistic about your abilities, and say, let's form community. I have this skill, and become someone. That family that work together, eat together, work together, and a dream and a goal that's feasible, that's possible, and say, I'm going to achieve. And with that achievement, every step of the way, there is a shift in your thinking. It's a metamorphosis. That you don't just stay like the Clampetts. That's from that old TV show. The Clampetts will always be poor, but a true person that's really elevating socially. It's a mind. You change mentally too. You can't just stay the same old way. You can have the principles. You keep the principles that got you there, but there is an expansion of your mind as well, because you'll be learning more and more as you go in life. So you have to be prepared to let go of some things and to grasp onto other things. And it could be for a lifetime. So there's responsibility out there, and we're being taught to be ashamed for being great, of having character. A lot of us are losing character. We're becoming slimy in character. Let's not have poor quality, we need character. Whether rich or poor, you need to have character. And I think that's what's lacking now in this world, in our community. We lack character, and we're superficial. Take a good assessment, and you may have to say, something. I don't want you. You got to point it out. You got to tell the devil what he is. There are a lot of devils in our community. Either you're gonna let them rule over you, or you're gonna say, get out. We have to stop being honest about ourselves and to save our community, and watch out by those opportunists that live amongst us, but they might look like us, talk like us, act like us, but they're in a disguise, and they're not about you. Be selective when you form your community. So that's all that I have to say right now. And no matter what you are, be your personal best. Live in integrity and love the person that you see in the mirror. Embrace that person that you see in the mirror. And so you don't have to be the social bully. So take care, guys. Bye-bye.